Hey, good day everyone. In today's video, we are going to discuss what are React hooks. Okay, so these are functions provided by React that allow us to use state and other React features in functional components. Okay, so again, for the keywords, this is going to allow us to use, what we have first is the state and other React features in functional components. Okay, but before going through with those features, going back to the early versions of React, we were only allowed to use class components, and we were using class components when we are going to access the features of React, and we're going to use or we're going to manipulate the state of our applications. Okay, so that was with class components, and as I've said before, class components a little bit tricky to implement, so that is why on the latest versions, on the modern versions of React, they already have the functional components. Okay, and how are we going to access those features, okay, and the state and the other features in React? Okay, that is now through this what we call as hooks. Okay, and take note, hooks are just actually functions. Okay, and they are provided by React, and also there are also other hooks that has been provided by third-party groups. Okay, or you could actually also create your own hook. Okay, so we're going to have that in the later part of our discussion. Okay, so again, state and other React features. So first we're going to have the state. So how are we going to use or manipulate the state of our application? Okay, so there is a certain hook for that, and that is what they call as the useState. Okay, useState is a hook that lets you declare state variables in your functional components. Okay, so as you can see here, state variables, meaning these are not ordinary variables but they have this what they call as a state. Okay, and usually we're using these states when we are going to present something into our UI. Okay, so we're just going to have an example later on. It returns an array with a current state value and a function to update it. Okay, so it is going to return an array. So as you can see here in our example, so we have a useState with 0 initial value. What does this mean? So it returns an array. Okay, so first is the variable. Okay, so this is now our state variable. Okay, it is the variable and a function that is going to modify the value of the variable. Okay, so this is now the array that has been returned by the function useState. Okay, so again, this is what we call, by the way, as array destructuring. Okay, so we are getting now the values returned by this function. Okay, and based on our definition, we have here the current state value, which is the variable here, and a function to update it. Okay, so that we could have a better understanding on this one, so I'm going to give you an example. Okay, so I'm just going to erase everything here so that we are going to have a clear understanding onto our on our current topic, which is hooks or state. Okay, so I'm just going to have here an H1 useState hook. So this is our topic. We have the useState hook. So it's going to save. Then we have here. Okay, so we have now updated here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create here another H1. Okay, 0. Then I'm going to create here a button, okay, then increment, okay. So what I'm going to do here is every time that I'm going to click on the increment button, okay, so this value here must increase by 1. Okay, so meaning we are now updating the value of this variable. At the same time, when we update the value of this variable, it also updates our UI. Okay, the state of our UI. Okay, or our display. This is, by the way, our UI. Okay, so first is we are going to import. Then we have the use state from React. Okay, so after we have imported our useState function, then we are going to declare here, let us say I'm just going to have count and setCount is equal to useState. Then I'm going to have here the initial value as 0. Okay, so we have it there. Oops. Okay. You're importing a component that needs useState. It only works in client components, but none of its parents are marked with useClient. Okay, so again, by default, any component or this component now is actually by default it is rendered into our server. Okay, so since we have here a button, and by the way, we have a useState. So when you say useState, you're going to update the UI. So therefore, useState must be implemented into the client. Okay, so therefore, it said we are going to issue the command here, use client. Okay, so save. So we have it here now. Okay, as I'm going to click on this one, so I must have to manipulate the value of the count variable. Okay, so I want the count variable to be stated here, so I'm going to have count. Okay, but as I'm going to save, so as you could see, we have the word count. Okay, so how are we going to display into our GSX? Take note, this is our GSX, a variable from our JavaScript. By the way, take note, the area here is we have JavaScript and we have here our JSX. Okay, so since I have there a variable named count and I'm going to display it into my JSX, I must have to enclose it with a curly brace. Okay, as I'm going to save, then you can see it there, we have now 0. Oops. I'm going to have this one onto the left. Then, okay. Now, so this 0 here is actually the default value for our count variable. Okay, so if ever I'm going to make this one as 1, and I'm going to save it, then as you can see, we have there 1. Okay, so again, the value you are going to input here, or you're going to specify here, would be the initial value of this state variable. So we're just going to start with 0. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is, every time that I'm going to click on the button, so therefore we are going to watch, or we are going to wait for the event on click. Okay. So on click is we are going to, I'm just going to say, I'm going to create a variable, increment. Okay. So therefore, I'm going to create here a function named increment. Okay, that is going to increase the value of this one here. Okay, so how are we going to increment or change the value of this variable? Through the function setCount. Okay, so I'm going to have here setCount. Then I'm going to have the current value of, by the way, if ever I'm going to have 5, okay, setCount 5, meaning I am going to change the value or update. Now, the term there is update. I'm going to update the value of count into 5. Okay, so I'm going to save this one. Then click, so as you could see it there, we have now 5 because we have set the value of count into 5. Okay, but now it is always 5. So what we're going to do, so we are going to change the value based on the current value of count and plus 1. Okay, so save. So I'm going to click on increment. So as you can see, we have now 6. So we're just going to start with 0. So we're going to have a refresh. Okay, so click on increment, save there 1, 2, 3, and so on. Okay, so that's how are we going to change the value of count. Now, don't be confused with example. I'm going to say count plus equals 1. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I am incrementing the value of count by 1, then set it to the variable count. Okay, but actually what will happen is that it is going to return here an error because of the word const. Okay, it says that it is already cannot reassign. A constant variable cannot be reassigned. Okay, so about if ever we're going to have here let save. Okay, and as I'm going to click here, so what we have done here is we have incremented the value of count plus 1, then set it as the new value for our count. Okay, so what's now the difference of this one here? So it is better to have it this way, okay? Because what we're doing here is we are just adding a value of 1 here based on the current value. Okay, we have added and set it directly to the value of count. Whereas if ever plus equals 1, so we are going to compute first, okay, or then assign it as a value of the count, then assign it again as for again twice. We are assigning here. If ever we're going to have it this way, we are assigning twice. Okay, first assign the value of count plus 1 to the count, then the value of count to this one here. Okay, although we are getting the same result, but we're just going to have count is equal to 1. Okay, so next, so it is not only on for example, we still have the style.css. So I still have the color red, so I'm just going to add let us say color blue, and the blue color. I'm going to have color, I'm going to have blue. Okay, so by default I'm going to have class name is equal to red color. Okay, save. Oops, I'm going to import style.css. Oops. Okay, so what I did actually is I just refreshed my browser here. So as you can see, we have now the red color. So I'm just going to have the blue, then save. So have there are blue color. Okay. Oops. Okay, so how about if ever, for example, if ever I'm going to click on, I'm just going to add another button. Then change, no, I'm just going to have it here, red. Okay, so save it red. So if ever I'm going to click on red button, this is going to change to red. Okay, so it's that simple. So I'm going to have here an on click. I'm going to have change color, const change color. Okay, but since this is going to be a state variable, so therefore I'm going to have here a variable. Let us say my color, comma, then set my color is equal to useState, and we are going to have as default we have blue dash color. Okay, then I'm going to have here the color class name is equal to my color. Okay, because I'm going to use now the variable my color into my GSX. Okay, so this is how I'm going to change the color. Okay, so I'm going to set my color, then I'm going to change it to red color. Okay, so since I am changing here the value of my color into red color, so therefore all variables that uses all GSX components, okay, or objects that uses this my color is also going to change. Okay, just like with our counter. Okay, so initially we have blue, then when we click on the button it is going to change into red. So save. Oops, we have again an error, cannot reassign. Now I'm just going to have here let save. Oh, yes, I have here an error. It's not 1, it is +1. Okay, so here again const save. Okay, increment, then red. Oops, wait. Okay, we have it there. So I just refreshed my page, then increment and red. Okay, so I have a problem with my server here. It doesn't immediately update my browser, so I need to click on the refresh button. Okay, so as you can see, what I'm trying to show you here is how are we going to use useState, okay, with a mathematical formula here and a string. Okay, now what will happen if ever I'm going to have, take note of my on click button, by the way, my on click event listener, by the way. If ever I'm going to have this one here, what will happen? Save, Okay, too many re-renders. Why? It is because every time that we are going to refresh this page, or it is going to open up this page, it is going to immediately call this function, or call this function. Okay, so that is why we are going to remove the parentheses here. Okay, so that this is going to be executed only when this event is going to fire. Okay, save so with there again. Okay. Okay, so I hope it is clear to you on how are you going to implement the use state into this very simple application. Okay, so we have just changed the value of the counter and also with the color. So actually everything here, all objects here could be changed. For example, we are going to change the value of this one, so therefore we are just going to create a state variable here, then we are going to put now the name of that variable into this button, okay, to this label. Okay, so hopefully it is clear to you, and that's all for this video.